Hey, what's up guys? John here. Florida is America's biggest housing bubble, and a lot of people would not expect that. They would think, well, Florida would probably do a lot better than New York or California, and in some ways that is true. But what they are not talking about is the fact that Florida has a population of 21 million. We have 9.6 million total housing units available, and 1 out of 10 people are not paying either their mortgage or their rent. So a 10% problem. And that number is very likely to continue growing. Dr. Fauci came out and said that it's very likely that we will not return to any form of real normal until spring of 2022, which could give us another 6 months to accumulate more and more issues. I believe Florida is going to be stepping into a massive affordability issue, and think there's a lot of landlords that are not going to be able to weather this storm. And not just landlords, small business owners. The entire board is about to get wiped out with what's coming. It's going to be absolutely frightening. I just sold my LA home about 2 weeks ago, and the realtor that I used that sells primarily commercial and multifamily real estate told me that this year he's had 11 clients liquidate their entire LA portfolio and move everything into Miami. They're moving all their funds, moving all their capital into Miami multifamily real estate. And when I'm looking at the pricing in Miami, people paying $200,000 a door for really rough areas. $200,000 a door, when that number would have probably been 50% less just a few years ago. But the whole hype around Miami, the whole hype around Florida is based upon that notion that this is really the last hope for America. This is the hope for entrepreneurs, for business owners, for investors. And the money's showing it. The money's showing it, but the data is showing that we got a big problem. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what you can expect in Florida. So please smash that like button. When you do, YouTube's going to share this content, educate more people about what's really going on. Please smash that like button. Let's begin. A lot of this information is pulled directly from Zillow. And Zillow, I believe, is one of the best sources for homes that are either pending in foreclosure and auction status. They were foreclosed, sold. And this is what they do. They draw information and data and sell that information. So a recent eviction forecast study by Zillow estimates that Florida has 144,240 households that rent their single-family homes and apartments may be at risk of it getting evicted. According to a study, 7.4 million households are already behind on rent as of July, according to the U.S. Census Bureau Household Pulse Survey. Stats Zillow provided for the state of Florida. 357,194 renter households in Florida are currently behind on rent, 48,969 less than in June. 144,240 renter households currently at risk of evictions, 9,879 more than last month. Factoring in added uncertainty, Zillow predicts that there will be 22,411 eviction filings in Florida, and 12,376 are likely to result in an eviction. Zillow estimates that more than 3 million renters who were employed in March of 2020 were still jobless in November. The company says unemployed renters in the U.S. will typically spend 43% of their unemployment income on rent alone. 43%. The most recent household poll survey shows 540,664 Floridians are behind on mortgage payments, and 357,194 are behind on rent payments. The data shows that the same number of residents not caught up on rent payments are worried that they'll have to leave their home in the next 2 months due to eviction. State and local governments still may put the moratoriums in place. In California, where as many as 1.6 million renters may be in arrears, most landlords can't move forward with evictions until October. However, in Florida, the moratorium, DeSantis did lift the moratorium for evictions. However, the CDC moratorium still remains in effect. Ron DeSantis allowed his executive order to expire September 2020, leaving only a CDC moratorium in place when the federal protections are lifted. Landlords in Florida must give tenants a minimum of 3 days to pay back rent before they can initiate the eviction process. Florida has only distributed 2% of all of the capital that was meant for landlords that are in distress. 2%. Why would that be? It really makes me wonder. If you're going to try to help the economy and sell an image that Florida is open, it's a place for business owners, for people that are fighting for, the last bit of America, this is where they go, right? He sells that narrative, and maybe that is true. Maybe that is who he is. I'm not discrediting him in any way. But what I am really scratching my head about, thinking about, is we've been in this situation for 18 months, 16, 18, 19 months, somewhere around there. And he's had these funds for a very long time, and only 2% have been distributed. 2%, meaning that these landlords are on their last leg. When the foreclosure moratoriums lift, when everything gets lifted, will it be likely that these landlords will get a last minute big check? It is possible. However, if I were one of those landlords waiting on that big check, I would not be sleeping well at night. And it would make me think that maybe their interest is based upon what is best for them versus what is best for the people of Florida. Now look at this article here. What they're saying is Tampa, Florida has 2% of the $870 million in federal funds it has received so far to keep renters in their home during the pandemic by paying landlords. So 2% of $870 million. Housing advocates fear that the CDC prevention could result in hundreds of thousands of Floridians essentially being evicted in the coming few weeks. But what they say here is, as of Florida Department of Children and Families, which is overseeing the program, distributed only $18.3 million, protecting only 4,300 households. 4,300 households out of roughly 900,000 households. So this is some pretty concerning data. And what is very fascinating to me is when you look at how fast Florida rents have been climbing over the last few years. And these numbers are all based upon what new investors are paying. They're paying, multifamily real estate is the value is determined primarily through the income of the asset. So the more the assets bringing in an actual net operating income, the more the property is going to be worth. So if these rents are not sustainable, essentially every investor that's coming in here to buy multifamily real estate, if rents drop 10, 20%, that's going to be massive. And these landlords are essentially going to be holding an asset that is losing money. And how many of these landlords can really hold on? But what we are also seeing in a big way is a lot of extremely wealthy people that have, I believe, in inflation fears. They're relocating their businesses here, and they're buying landmark properties in key areas like Billionaire's Bunker and Star Island and up and down the beaches, spending 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 million on massive estates. And that's a little bit different. This is like more of an inflation play. They're buying a landmark asset. They're borrowing money at a very, very cheap rate. It might make sense for them. However, these numbers are concerning. And people think that if you're in Florida that you can evict, that you can go ahead and evict your tenant. But in most cases, that is not true. And so when you look at the actual, the website here, it says, I can't pay my rent because of pandemic. What's going to happen? Remember, in Florida, your landlord is never allowed to evict you without a court order. If your landlord tells you to leave your home before a judge orders you to, you do not have to move out. The CDC's new eviction moratorium is in effect until October 3rd, 2021, and declares a national moratorium on residential evictions and for eligible renters living in areas with higher sustainable rates of community transmission. And that's roughly over 90% of the US population. Florida is definitely fitting in there, a lot of areas in Florida. But the last CDC moratorium, it only applies for evictions for non-payment of rent. The CDC order does not stop a landlord from filing the eviction lawsuit, but prohibits the final stage of eviction. So basically they can just get in line and wait. The CDC order does not relieve tenants of the obligation to pay rent and fees, including late fees. Right, but good luck collecting. You could always place a lawsuit on someone. You could even win the lawsuit. But if you look at how many, I'll show you right now, how many judgments actually get paid. So right here, collecting on a judgment can be just as challenging as winning the lawsuit in some cases. If the defendant has stable finances, they should be able to pay the judgment uneventfully. Most often, the judgment debtor will need to pay the judgment as a lump sum, but sometimes the debtor will ask for installments. Now, when you place a lawsuit on someone, if you do win and you attempt to try to go garnish their wages, if they don't have any money, you're going to spend, in most cases, probably more effort, aggravation, and dollars pursuing that person than just letting it go, especially in places like California and New York. But even in Florida, I think that what's going to happen is a lot of landlords will say, I'm just going to take a loss on this situation, and they'll let their tenant go. I think a smart move right now for a lot of landlords is if you have tenants that are not paying, be to negotiate with them. See what you can do. See if maybe you can give them some money, some move out money, whatever it may be. Because if Fauci is saying that things are likely not going to open back up until fall 2022, or spring 2022, what that could do is allow you to accumulate more and more debts month in and month out. It might make more sense to just give them 5, to have walk away, 7, walk away. You know, this is the game we're playing right now, and a lot of landlords are investing thinking that everything is going to open back up and everything is going to be completely, you know, how it once was. However, if that is not true, just remember that you're taking a massive bet that everything is going to be perfect. However, you know, we're 19 months into this now, ballpark, 19 months in, and it doesn't feel like we're getting anywhere close to the end. So when these protections expire, I personally believe what's going to happen is BlackRock, Blackstone, these big corporate landlords are going to run out there and try to buy massive blocks of debt from these banks and take over these properties and essentially bring the rents down for a little while. I think that it probably makes the most sense for them to bring rents down 10, 20, 30% for 1 to 2 to 3 years to really draw the overall median rents down in those areas, and then bleed out more landlords, then accumulate those properties. And once they have those properties and they have market share, they can then increase the rents and accumulate a bigger portfolio, more control over the people. And then at that point, then they can essentially do whatever they want. That's what I think is very likely to happen. So when I see these numbers, and then I go out in the street and I hear people talking about, oh, I'm buying this property, I'm buying this home, and buying this multifamily property based on X, Y, and Z, you know, I hope it works out for them. I do, but the numbers look pretty interesting. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that this is going to end well, or do you think that there's going to be a small speed bump in an otherwise great economy and a great segment to be in, which is Florida? I mean, things look very interesting. I personally think that this could grow into from a 900,000 unit issue to a 1.5 to 1.6 million unit issue of unpaid renters and homeowners, possibly by April, if we continue down this road and we simply just accumulate more and more issues in the economy. But drop your comments below. I'm genuinely curious as to what you guys think about this. Consider subscribing on this channel and also consider subscribing on my second channel. I'm gonna leave links pinned down below. Please smash that like button. When you do, YouTube's gonna share this content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.